Welcome everyone to Grape Finance's weekly AMA. My name is Nicky and I'm here with Dave. Hello Dave, how are you?
Hello, good morning.
And I'm here with LB. Good morning LB, how are you?
Hey everyone, thanks for listening in to the weekly AMA.
Yeah, definitely. And it's very early morning for you, right? It's like 2 a.m. or something.
It's just right on midnight now.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's not too bad.
Yeah.
S- So yeah, we've had a lot of talks about getting us back to back and how to deal with that. And I think most of the AMA questions are about that. Um, so maybe we should simply start with having a bit of a talk about that and then see if there are still some questions that I might have missed that are completely unrelated, if we still have time for that. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
we can
Mm-hmm.
just push them on to the next time. Right. I cannot imagine you not having read it, LB, so
Mm-hmm.
you must have an opinion.
Yeah. On I guess which thing in particular? The
Well,
peg campaign or
let's just say the very fact that we've been underpacked for quite a while now and have we seem to have been dropping a bit more, and then we rose a little bit, but just a little bit. And of course, there are people asking for a back-to-back campaign. So all of it, I guess. Like, what's your idea on it? Like, how should we tackle this?
well, I mean as well, like we need to be patient, i- in this whole aspect because if you rush to peg, because we hit peg 2 weeks ago, we hit it 2 weeks ago after a 2 week under peg, and we quickly went under peg again, because it's used as like a swing trading zone essentially. And then we hit 90 cents about 2 weeks ago again in post the game. And then we went down again from there. It's but the thing is that it's we have low volume at the moment, and really what we see one or two big players that can move things very easily now because it's low overall volume, um, which means that their move has a large impact. But we do need to be patient in order to get back to peg. I mean, EMP was under peg for 2.5 months. They slowly grinded back to peg over time. And then they printed for about last 2 weeks. Now they're a little bit below again. And that's just kind of, I think we also need to set expectations properly. Like, you can't maintain peg forever. It's just you are defying the laws of physics by doing so. It's just not possible to be able to print at a percent inflation per day, especially when your supply is, in like our supply was 5 million. 1% a day inflation is a lot of grape per day. That's
Yeah.
being emitted out. So in other words, you need to counteract, like you need at least that buying pressure per day to maintain the level, not even to grow. And that gets more and more every day. You have 10 million supply. It's 1% on 10 million now, which is double what it is 1% on 5 million. So you do need to go below peg, uh, and you need to have periods below peg to kind of shrink the supply, go into a contraction phase, uh, develop some new things as well, have some time to develop some new things, and then launch and then come back into a momentum phase, you could say. That's kind of what crypto is really. It's attention waves relating to momentum, and I don't know, you could say hype in general. So we have been below peg for a little while. We do want to get above peg, but it's also something that we can't just like force, because if you force it, well, we're going to be drained, as in the treasury is going to be drained, and people are going to game it, and the people that lose out the most are the people that are the actual supporters of the project that do want to get back to peg, and they will do the things optimal for the project to do so, but they will be taken advantage of by people that obviously want to trade in this period. And that's this isn't a permissionless blockchain. You can do whatever you want, obviously.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying we need to be cautious, and we need to be we can't be forcing anything, because it's going to damage the protocol, the treasury itself, and the investors that are working in the optimal in the, working towards the optimal strategies for the protocol. So we are working on a plan to implement a peg campaign, but we'll move slowly so that we don't force things to where people can take advantage of us, basically, or try and limit that, because you can't really avoid it on a permissionless blockchain, really.
Yeah, so basically what you're saying is that it's not necessarily unhealthy for us to be under pack for so long, and we should definitely not go and forcibly try and change that, because that would simply hurt the people, the true investors, like the people who really support the protocol, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
that's the
and
short of it.
it's kind of, we need to focus on the bigger picture of things, which is you know, I mean, people maybe don't like Tomb, you know what I mean? But in saying that, they have a bigger picture where they are kind of, they were below peg for a very long time. I don't think
Mhm.
they've been above peg for like 6 months even. Um, but they've moved on from that. In other words, they're doing other things. They're building a different ecosystem. You may or may not like the ecosystem, it doesn't matter, but they're moving on from what you could say is a system that really is designed to kind of like bootstrap the ecosystem. In other words, the seniorage phase is designed to bootstrap, to expand the supply of grape, bootstrap the system, bootstrap the community and the ecosystem, and then you can move on from there to build a whole ecosystem that ties them together,
Yeah.
that can actually sustain over a longer period of time. Because as I say it again, 1% inflation a day
Mhm.
for life is like, it'd be nice if that can last forever, but it's just not possible. You can even look at the United States government that is has printed a lot of money in these last 2 years, and everybody's feeling the effects of it now. The entire world is feeling the effects of it. But and that's the US government, which has their currency being the world reserve currency. They basically force everyone to use the currency. You want to, you want to trade oil in the world, you better price it in US dollars.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
still, they still can't beat basic economics, really, which is you inflate the supply of your token, it's going to devalue it. And you inflate it enough over demand, it will devalue it less than what it should be priced at. So that's the idea, really.
Yeah, clearly. And then you also mentioned that you do want to go and look at a back-to-back campaign regardless at some point,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah, yeah. Well, we when when Austin LHB
Mhm.
and Ames, Fox from Ames. Well, obviously I talk to them very often anyway, but we sort of got their peg contract and UI implementation roughly at the same time, but well, we're actually at the same time, but we already had the wine press coming out this week, so I kind of delayed the back to peg campaign until post the wine press, and also kind of wanted to see how it would go with Walrus as well, and it did well. So basically, we already have those contracts, in other words, and I've already tested them and all that sort of stuff. But we can see with Walrus it did really well. Obviously, the design of it is good in that you're splitting. I mean, I think we talked about this last AMA, in that you split the LP, and then you deposit the MIM side into the contract, which then buys Grape, or half of it is used to buy Grape, and it's locked in the contract. And then the Grape side, you would stake in, the single stake likely, or some other mechanism. You do something with that. So you try and disincentivize selling of that by incentivize staking of it in some way, or locking of it in some way. So that is the idea that's the basic mechanic of it. And then obviously there's depending on the TWAP, there's certain withdrawal penalties, and then when you do withdraw, it creates the LP on the withdrawal. So you are splitting LP, but you're also using the MIM side to buy Grape and then make LP anyway when you withdraw. So and obviously that buying pressure is kind of designed to increase the price of the peg, while also you're splitting LP, so you're reducing you're increasing the price impact those buys will have at the same time. So it's, in theory, it works really well. We saw with Walrus, it did work really well. They got to 95, 96. They actually got the peg, actually. But obviously there's, they got back, they rose really quickly in that phase, from 60 cents or whatever to peg within like 2 days. So in that period,
we'll see how that turns out. Yeah, because I'm seeing if they stop here, they're dropping now, and if they stop here, they'll have made a proper higher low. But we'll see how that turns out. Is kind of what you're saying, right? See how it actually works.
Yeah, I mean, because it worked to get there, but maybe a bit too quick, which led to a lot of people, maybe gaming it, trying to take profits very early, or obviously you would have made some good profits if you bought in at 60 cents and it went to $1 like 2-3 days later. But taking profits right at the peg obviously meant then that if a lot of people do that, well, then the price is going to fall from there, and you don't reach the
You're
actual
still not
goal
printing.
So and there's something you have to watch there is the fact that it's coming from funds from the treasury. And as well, you also have, I also noticed that there was some sort of a gaming mechanism, or it's possible to be gamed, because you would have people wanting to keep it below peg in order to earn the high yields, because it was boosting it pretty high, like 2, 3, even 4% APR daily, which is very high, much higher than the farms can offer. So in other words, you kind of do want that, obviously, because it is locked. But at the same time, it almost led to some people not wanting it to get back to peg because then that pool ends.
Right.
It's just kind of, it's funny how these things work like that. It's there's so many different angles to think about, um, and obviously it's a this is this is the free market. This is actually like the definition of a free market right here. There's literally no regulation for any transaction at all. As long as it's a valid transaction on the chain, it will go through. So that's the gist of it, really. So we kind of need to balance that. We kind of need to take some things into consideration. We don't want to drain the treasury just for a peg campaign just to get back to peg, and then all of a sudden everybody just dumps on the peg. We've drained the treasury and we're not even at peg, even though we did reach it, but then everybody took profits. Well, then it's kind of like that's a terrible. We basically just lost. So some things to take into consideration.
Yeah, and then there's a lot to be said to simply just build and create a lot of utility and hope that will work, as you said earlier. That's definitely yeah. I think you've shown the balance pretty well, like what the balance, whether it's a good decision or a bad one. By the way, we have NB right here, and he has been here. We've wanted to have him on the AMA for a long time, and now he's finally here. So I'm asking him to unmute. Hi, NB. How are you doing?
How you doing, guys? I didn't want to unmute while LB was talking. So
No, I get that. Thank you for that. So for everyone who doesn't know him, NB has been on the team since the beginning, and well, maybe you want to say something about yourself, who you are, what you do
sure,
for the protocol and everything.
sure. So I mean, I think I was involved in grapes since the launch, basically, and then just cultivated a relationship with our fearless leader right off the bat. Just got into helping out with partnerships and acquiring partners in the beginning, and then that led to me having almost daily conversations. I think LB will attest to that. I can definitely take over a conversation here. But yeah, and so right now I primarily focus on partnerships and business development moving forward. So I do help a lot with like what we're planning on in the future and things like that. And I'm also the head naming guy. I name everything.
He's good with names, yeah.
Good to come up with names.
You came up with Vinium then, right?
Oh yeah. And winemaker.
And winemaker.
And
yeah,
not the wine press though. That's all it'll be.
So
I think that was a community decision.
Oh, never mind. Sorry. But yeah, like I basically I help with future visions a lot and handle some partnership relations and things of that nature for us, and hopefully all this stuff comes into fruition. And I agree with everything you guys are talking about in terms of we don't want to get back too quickly. Usually a lot of these stuff that when we discuss implementing things like this, we want to do it in more of a slow, organic sort of way, so that when we do achieve peg, people see value. So you want to build value for the ecosystem first, and not just get to peg just solely to get to peg.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm also just very happy that you are on the team, and of course that all of us actually are on the team, because we all have this vision about just slowly going at it, like continue adding value and just letting it run for itself instead of just panicky adjustments all the time. And I think that has worked out for us in the past pretty well, and I think it will also in the future. But thank you so much for your introduction, Ambi.
Thanks.
And
I'm glad I can make
yeah,
it.
yeah, definitely. Finally, you're here sometime. I'm glad you're here now.
Well, it's at a reasonable hour for the East Coast.
Right. Yeah, I know. Whenever you're calling me as well, it's usually at my 2 a.m. or whatever.
Exactly.
That's okay. That's okay. We manage. Anyway, thank you so much. Oh, he's already muted himself. That's all right. Okay. So we've had a bit of a discussion on the PAG and the getting back to PAG and everything. That means that I'm now gonna sift through what the questions are to see if any of the questions are not related to that, and then maybe we can go and ask that. I think the first one, hello player, is that like hello devs. When would you add always or burning vintage only? Oh, I've already asked that the last time. Let me see. Rickiko asked if the homepage would be updated, but I think that has already happened. Yeah. Would it be possible to use NFTs? No. Will the wine press and Vidium? Right. I think this is the first real question. EBT asking, can we get a leaderboard for assassinations?
Yeah, we can actually. I mean, obviously, it's not something that's it's something, because it's happens after 350% anyway, and that will take a few months. So you nobody will even show up there for a while, but it is in the contract, so we can track it. We can track top assassins and all that sort of stuff, and then people that are close to assassination will show up on the page there. So yeah, we can add that in. We will add that in. It's pretty cool. Should be pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So this is for the winemaker game for people who just had no idea. Like we're not running a Hitman company or anything. It's for the game.
I mean,
It's for
that's
the
for
game.
that's for the wine press.
Oh, the wine press. Oh, even I got it wrong. I'm so sorry. So sorry. I've been a bit distracted lately. All right. Then we move on. Penny Bear says, I think it's important to first have the nodes v2 out before doing any kind of back-to-back campaign. Well, yes. So we just discussed that, right? If we're going to do that back-to-back campaign, we're going to do it in a moment that it actually is a wise decision, or at least we think it would be. EBT is curious. Neat Beef says winemaker offers a great opportunity for people to pump grape into the game, generate vintage, and sell the vintage to take profits, keeping the price of grape more stable. You've said that more utilities coming for vintage, but could you give us an idea of what this may look like and roughly when it would be expected?
Yeah, well, there's a new mechanic we're adding into the game shortly. Like similar, you could say, to the Mafia mechanic of pizza game, where it's essentially like a randomized pop-up new tax, essentially a randomized extortion fee, you could say. Which you have to pay for in vintage, and then there's also new we also have a couple new skills coming very early next week, actually, and a new tool coming early next week as well, which will have a much lower supply but give you a nice boost, and that will cost a decent amount of vintage. Also thinking about maybe trialing the fatigue reset with vintage instead of grape, at least maybe temporarily, just to see how that impacts it. But as well as that, we did just yesterday boost I added some more liquidity to vintage. Added a added some grape mim and a grape vintage liquidity as well. But someone actually already made that pair, and the problem is that they stuffed up the price. So it was like vintage was like 50,000 grape or something per vintage. But obviously because there's like, 1/1000th of a cent in value in there, no one could like arb it or anything. But the problem is that when the pool's already created, you want to go add liquidity to that pool, you have to keep that ratio. You can't keep the ratio if it's like something so stupid, because when you add liquidity in, a bot's just going to come and arb the crap out of it. So I have to like periodically like add very small liquidity in and sell into it so that we can like actually level the price out to where it should be, and then add more liquidity slowly to that pair so that it doesn't just get like arbed through the main pair, which won't be good, because if it's such a large difference, it's going to be a big arb. But I added more to. We'll do that over time. But I added more to and that'll be grape vintage, something extra. Obviously, it's kind of like an extra lock for grape. A lot of people will trade grape for vintage and vintage for grape, and so on, because you do need to use both in the game. So that's good to have. But as well as that, we do want to keep the vintage mim as well, because if you do want to take profits, it's better to do it through mim, obviously, rather than selling through grape and then selling the grape. Especially considering that the vintage is obviously inflated separately. You don't actually need to buy grape to earn vintage. So so that's kind of. Oh yeah, I was mentioning that we boosted the single S vintage staking for wine yesterday. We're going to continue boosting that up, and also like adjusting some of the pools in the vineyard as well to kind of consolidate things. And I think what we're going to do post so one of the things with the swapsicle pair that was probably not the best is that it wasn't on Beefy. Like, we do prefer Magic here. Magic vaults obviously are the preferred vaults, but there's obviously a lot of people that don't like look at the website at all. They just look at Beefy.
They go to
And they just
BP
look
and they
at-
stay there.
That's literally it. We've actually got quite a lot of investors that are literally only on, like, they only look at Beefy for investments. They don't even go to the project website. So I mean, it doesn't make sense for us to just shut off Trader Joe, because then we're literally cutting out over $1 million from the LP. And a lot of those people probably won't even look at Grape they probably never even been to the Grape website. So now that Swapsicle is actually on Beefy as well, we can move them over to, so at least they're on Swapsicle. Then we can kind of move things over to Swapsicle a bit more easily now. Obviously, if you're actually in tune with the protocol, you should be in Magic Vaults. But it's a free market and people can do whatever they please, obviously. So, but at least this way, we can keep those beefy investors as well, because they are people that put money into the protocol and at least invest their hard-earned dollars into the protocol. So they are people too. So we'll consolidate. Exactly. So we'll consolidate some of the pools.
Well, it is funny. It's simply that it's so strange to me to go and invest in a project where you haven't even looked at the community, the site or whatever. You just go and look at your compound or your BP and that just go. But even though that is the case, they are people too. No, it's
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
great. Yeah, it's great. If we could make the transfer to Swapsicle because of this, that would be absolutely awesome because,
Hmm.
Swapsicle is just so much nicer to us than Trader Joe. And
Yeah, we
I
can
mean,
work with them much closer. Yeah.
yeah. All right. Let's have a look at what's next. Peter Flea says there's huge congrats team on the wine press. I'm very impressed. Oh, are you happy with the first days? The first few days, re-uptake, wondering what's the best strat for wine press. One day compound, next claim. Any advice? Well,
Um.
uh,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess we can look at EMP. They're at the forefront of that, the leaders of that. It's particularly based off their pool. It's not the same, obviously, but it is based off it. And drip as well. I mean, I'm pretty sure they are based off drip, the drip idea. And essentially, the most beneficial thing is you compound several days in a week, and then you claim, once or twice in a week as well. So it's like you compound, 3 to 5 times of the week, 3 to 5 days of the week, and then you claim, 1 to 2 days of the week. So then you're essentially refeeding the pool, but you're also being able to claim at the same time. And if everybody does that, it's essentially just keeping itself moving along in a way that the pool is always fed. So I mean that's the EMP recommendation, and obviously that's kind of like what is would translate here as well, because essentially the whole thing is based on shares of the pool. It works differently to the nodes, and this is where I think where it's almost it's a better system than the nodes, and it's almost a thing that I mean we can talk about node v2 as well, in that um, the detonator system, the wine press system, is based on your share of the pool. So you are always guaranteed at least 90% ROI on your investment. So that's something that's even better than the nodes just from that regard anyway. Even if you're the last person to deposit in, you are still um, guaranteed that return. So that's really good for sustainability, at least in
yeah, it
that
makes it a
regard.
lot less scary, right?
Yeah,
To enter.
yeah. And the APRs are still good, and the APRs are variable, obviously, as well, but they're at least fixed on your initial return in the beginning, and then they're based on uh, sort of you know they're also based on claims. They're based on claims. They're based on compounds. They're based on new deposits. Each claim as well also feeds the entire pool and gives shares to the rest of the people. So when people claim in the wine press, you are taking profits, obviously, but you're also decreasing your share of the pool, and then you're donating whatever the penalty is, which I think it's 5% in this one. You're donating that to the rest of the pool. So whenever someone claims, it actually, unlike the nodes where you're kind of almost taking from other people's, um, other people's
From the newer
potential
nodes.
rewards. Yeah.
Yeah.
In this system, you're actually donating to the rest of the nodes more shares, and you're reducing your shares. So it's almost incentivized in that way to compound, because you are increasing your shares of the pool continuously. But obviously,
Yeah.
you do need to take some profits because, like, I mean, it's not a charity where you just kind of, everybody's here to make some money, right? I mean, that's kind of the idea. You're not
Yeah,
just
it's a
here
game,
to
so
yeah. So, you should take profits, obviously. But if you compound more than you claim, like you compound, as I said, or EMP recommends as well, 3 to 5 days in the week, and then you claim once or twice in the week, you are still claiming your rewards, but compounding back into the pool and feeding the shares of the pool and increasing your shares of the pool as well, which then can make it last much longer into the future. So that essentially you can, and essentially because it's based on the 350% is based on your initial, then you compound. It's essentially delaying or increasing how long you can go on into the system for. So you can essentially just keep going forever in that regard. I say forever, but it's kind of like the universe will implode at some point as well too. So it's like not possible for everything to be forever, like an actual forever in what I mean. You know what I mean? So realistic terms, but
yeah,
much better than the nodes that we have.
it's
I've
a
been
much stronger system than the nodes. That's it.
much, yeah,
But it's still a
much
game.
better.
Yeah.
Yeah, much better, much more sustainable than the nodes too. And the gamified aspect of it is much better.
Yeah.
It doesn't it's not going to explode on the last person. It's not like I forgot the word for it. It's no like a
pyramid.
yeah, I mean it's not like a damn, there's a word for it. Never mind, but it's
With the last investor having the least or with the last investor
yeah,
drawing the short straw, that's usually a pyramid.
yeah, basically. I mean, yeah, basically you can say that. It's
Yeah.
it doesn't implode.
Yeah. Not in that way. All right. Then we move on. Yeah, some people they're debating Carbonator and others. They're debating whether we should first have a back-to-back campaign before we have a Vinium launch. Because then the marketing campaign will be much more efficient if we are closer or at pack. Well, I'm sure you'll have some things to say on that, LB, but I think I also do. If Vinium gets launched and the tokens are low, and you start your position then, and you loan against tokens that are low, I mean that's a lot more healthy because then the tokens have a long way to go up, and you will definitely not get liquidated then. So I wouldn't necessarily say that we first need to be back at pack, but what do you think, Albi?
Well, yeah, I mean like it's technically a different thing. Like what we're going to be doing is we're going to be doing almost like a separate marketing campaign for it, because there's overlap. And as you mentioned, you mentioned a good point there, that you essentially borrow. I mean, you're using as collateral. You're using assets that are well below peg and whatnot, or even wine at a cheap price.
Yeah.
It's better to use them at a lower price than a very inflated price as collateral, because your risk of liquidation is lower, much lower. But in saying that as well, we're also going to kind of market it a little bit differently, because this a lending protocol is kind of, and I've noticed it in our sort of chat as well, and then in sort of other degen protocols, many degens have not used lending systems
At all.
at all, which
Yeah.
they're using all these like intricate degen protocols, like especially like Toonforks is kind of intricate. There's a lot of moving parts here. but they've never used the lending protocol, which is kind of like one of the core features of DeFi. And in other words, it kind of means that it's almost a new market for the degens is a lending system. But we also want to target markets that are more, I guess, more traditional DeFi, which do use lending systems like almost every single day to loop rewards, to leverage their positions, to reduce capital gains, taxes, to do things like short farming, long farming, like things that are intricate, but in almost, you could say, a non, they're pretty degen, but they're non like Toonfork degen, if you know what I mean.
Or a different style of degen.
Yeah. So we're going to we're going to be, it's technically going to be its own product that's tied into Grape, but it's actually its own branding, you could say, because we want to capture the traditional DeFi market, but then also bring our community into it as well and expose them to this, to the world of traditional DeFi lending and down the line leveraged yield farming as well. So yeah, I mean, obviously we do want to be in a very healthy position on the peg. In saying that, it's also, there's some advantages like you mentioned, and there's also, we're going to be kind of marketing it as its own thing as well. So I mean,
Alright.
yeah.
No, that's pretty clear. It's very clear. It's just gonna be its own thing, and whether we are at PAC or not is not very important for it. Mostly.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Martin K asked a question about the difference between nodes and winepress. I'm gonna assume that has been answered, because you've just had a whole talk about that.
Yeah.
Or do you want to add anything to it?
I mean, we pretty much covered it. I mean, it's just like the general idea is that it's based on shares of a system. It's gamified as well, which is like a bonus. People that claim profusely actually in this system almost penalize their own potential returns. Like in the node system, you can earn up to 500%, and you can just claim as much as you want. And there's kind of like no real penalty. There's no bonus for compounding either. Whereas in the wine press, you have a bonus for compounding that you don't, you increase your shares first of all, and you don't have to pay that penalty. And then claimers, you can claim as much as you want, but you're likely to reduce the total amount you can get from it. You're likely to only get even just 90% ROI if you only claim. And you'll donate part of your claim to the rest of the pool. So it's a better system.
It is. It is. This question though from It's On Boy says, how will the V2 nodes ensure that a high IPR is maintained? He says the aim should be about 1% a day or more, as intended. And he also says, no, it depends on the community recompounding, but how is that incentivized or incentivized the moment they don't? And I think we've covered this a fair bit already in previous AMAs. So maybe we should just say, well, the V2 nodes are going to make sure that it's more profitable to be compounding than to be claiming. And I think that's the gist of it, right?
That's the gist of it. And I've been looking around for a lot of potential, a lot of ideas and a lot of things, a lot of existing a lot of existing ones. And I mean, I'm leaning towards almost implementing it based on the wine press, like implementing a modified wine press as a secondary node to migrate people to that, essentially, and then modifying it with some other aspects too, for compounding, for bonuses, etc. So
All right. I've looked ahead a little to see if in the AMA live chat there are a lot of questions, but it's mainly operator wondering if the vintners ever go to the bathroom and how they would deal because they produce wine 24/7. So that's all good. Which means that we can go and focus on Chenko Fix It, who's has a lot of questions. But those will then probably be the last ones. Well, the first thing is, I think it's a yes or no question. Like, would the team consider bring V2 upgrades before Vinium gets launched? Like, what's first?
uh
Or is he
if
simply need?
yeah,
Does he need to see and wait? Because that's also
I
possible.
do, yeah, I do want to bring them out soon.
Yeah.
And if I do it as a way where we modify the wine press and kind of make it a modified node, essentially, because essentially it is a node, but it's it's a better system than the nodes are currently.
Yeah.
But we add some other things into it which will benefit holders, and then we migrate people over with a bonus for
Yeah, the question was whether we first do the V2 node upgrades or whether we first have Vinium. That this was sort of the question.
yeah.
But
Well, I mean, the idea is that if I'm kind of leaning towards that. So if we do that, then it would be before Vinium, like it'd be very soon actually.
mhm.
And I may actually just do that as a tester
All right.
to see, to bring something out to see if that helps.
Okay. But you mean that Vinium would be in the fall or the V2 nodes would be in the fall? Like, I'm getting
Yeah,
confused.
the V2 would come in
In the
sooner
fall.
if that was the case. Yeah.
All right. Would it be possible to have the new node with vintage mim or vintage grape using a V2, a beta V2 update? All right,
Yeah. So
so
that's, yeah.
nodes with vintage mim or vintage grape. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course
So
it's possible.
yeah, it's definitely possible. I mean, we can
Yeah,
test it out. Yeah.
right. If above possible, maybe opening new V2 beta nodes to notice and NFT holders. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's also possible.
hmm
If the V2 nodes can't skip developing queue, would it be possible to create any way to reward people who are compounding now? Maybe wine press tickets or anything else?
We can give
Um,
away tickets, but it would be more. You would get a bonus in the V2 or the next or the beta, you could say.
all right. Now we switch to the launch back to pack campaign. He says if we are to launch the pack campaign, LB already said we could have a compound rewards button. Is this confirmed? It would sort of be the same as that one, right?
Yeah, there is a compound function on the contract, and I did test it. It did work, so that would be in there. Yeah.
Okay. So yes, it would be sort of the same. Could we set the same high withdrawing fees on deposit? And yeah, it would be sort of the same. Would lock rewards? Yes. These are all questions. Will it be the same as the Walrus back-to-back campaign? And yes, it would be sort of the same.
Yeah, I mean
Um,
it's the same contract. It's from Ames. We may make some adjustments. Like you mentioned the 1.1, 1.2 peg. I'm
Yeah.
thinking to adjust because right now it goes like if it's 101, then it will allow you to withdraw. So I'm thinking to extend that to at least 105 to withdraw without a penalty at 105. So at least there's a leeway, there's a headway to ensure that traders are not just like dumping right at the peg. You have to, if you have to push it to get to 105 at least.
Yeah. Yeah, clear. All right. And last but not least, I'm jumping into Vinium regardless of the order. Yeah, I am too, and I'm really waiting for it. I'm very happy that Vinium is coming, and I'm so excited, but it's taking so long, and I've been waiting for this since January or something. But okay, we'll keep on waiting. And he also says a massive thank you for the Grape team. Aleph Grape. All right. I do like that one. All right. There are some very nasty theories about the vintners and they're going to the bathroom, which I'm not going to answer into.
I did already answer it in the live chat, so
Yeah, I'm not
Simple-
sure if
simple
that made it
answer.
better. I'm not all that sure if that made it better. Okay. Fizzle even wants to make it a tool. This is not going the right way. All right. Oh wait. Any EMA on Vinium? This is an ETA but different, I would say. Estimated what of arrival? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So ETA, any ETA on Vinium? Like, do you have a
Yeah,
real
so
idea when? When?
Vinium is planned to launch. Obviously, we're going to release the docs very soon, finalizing a couple of things there. The idea with Vinium is we need to launch it in a big way. We need to launch it in a way that we attract not just, as I mentioned before, not just like Degen crowd, because Degen crowd isn't really, to be honest, isn't really like the prime market of a lending system. It's a new market for lending system. It's something that we could bring in, but it's not the target market. The target market is much larger, in other words.
Yeah.
So it's actually getting an audit right now. So we'll wait for that, obviously, because seasoned DeFi investors definitely want an audit for, if you're going to put millions of dollars into something,
Yeah.
you want an audit, especially for a lending system.
Yeah.
So that's in process right now. We will wait for that, and any changes that need to be made until that's done. But in the meantime, we will be ramping, like finalizing the docs and the branding for it, and then starting like a real proper marketing campaign that isn't just Degen orientated. It's more, talking to people like Ava Labs. You know what I mean? It's like it's a proper campaign for DeFi on AVAX, not like APR chasing yields. So, and also we're going to launch it on. I mean, it's launched on testnet, as in the contracts, but we're finalizing some UI integration of that. and that should be done in like the next week. And
Mm.
then we'll open up the testnet for some OGs to kind of play around and get their feel for it, and suggest any improvements on UI aspect. And then obviously finalize audit, and really focus heavily on marketing as a DeFi product, a sustainable DeFi product is the idea. Not a degen product for people to make a quick buck. In other words, it's a tool for people to use for many years to come. It provides you a service, and the protocol will earn fees from this service is the idea. It's our kind of like transition from inflation-based rewards to revenue-based rewards, which will slowly move to over time. But this is kind of like the first step into it. So we want to do it properly. We want to do it right, and we want to make it big, to be honest. So when everything's fallen into place and finalized, is
Yeah, but
is when it will be. Yeah.
But you're almost skipping over some really big and cool things, which is that the only reason that you can even already have an audit that's going on is that the code is finalized, right? It's
Yeah.
actually
Well,
it's
it's on testnet. Yeah.
yeah,
It's
it's being tested. We've entered the last phases of it almost being there. So it's actually going
it's very
pretty
close.
well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very close. I'm just making the point clear that it needs to be done very properly, because this is not like a
Of course.
it's not like a, as I say like 20 times, it's not like a degen protocol that it's super high risk to make really high returns. It's a lower return platform, but it's a platform that can attract very large capital, not just like a $10 million TVL, but a very large amount of capital. And to be able to attract a very large amount of capital, it needs to be done very professionally, and all the boxes need to be ticked off essentially. So
Needs to
that's
be
what we're
good
going
from
to
the
do.
very beginning. Yeah,
Exactly.
awesome. All right. That brings us to the end of this AMA. Dave, do you have anything to add after
Yeah, I
all of
mean,
this?
I could piggyback a bit on, Vinium coming before PEG. I think that's fine too. It's providing, a terminal utility option or benefits of having that terminal utility regardless of the PEG price.
hmm
And then as
Yeah.
far as back to PEG campaign, we talked that quite a bit. But you can clearly see it's not like a magic bullet. Walrus, was back up to 97, and then it's now down to 82 again. So we're still going to have those people looking to swing trade. So it's going to be helpful, but it's not going to be like a magic bullet necessarily.
Yeah, very true. All right. LB, do you have anything to end the AMA with?
Yeah, I don't want to take too much time. We're kind of over the time now, but I just say that thanks everyone for the support, and the community sticking together. Um, I mean, we can't control the price, obviously, so that's just something that you can't really dwell on as well. You know what I mean? You can't just like that's the only thing that matters, but it actually isn't. It's got nothing to do with anything, because you can't actually control it. So the only thing we can control is what we produce and how we produce it, and how we brand it and market it, I guess, as well. But we can't control how people react to that as well, and that's related to the price. So we have to disregard that for now, and we have to just focus on building and the larger vision of Grape and its ecosystem moving on from inflation-based rewards as we have in the bootstrap phase for this last 6-7 months into more of a sustainable DeFi revenue-based model, which is actually sustainable over a very long period of time. As long as the service provides the service that people want, it will be around providing that service. So that's the bigger picture, and that's where we're going.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. All right. I also don't really have a lot to add, except I'm very happy that whenever I go into the Grape chat, it's still just a nice chat. Everyone's still just being happy and just sometimes trying to find ways of how to fix things, like maybe fixing the peg or whatever. But we're still just being a good community, working together, and I love that, right? It's there's no panicky stuff going on or whatever. We're graping on and we're doing well. And I think this is just a very, very difficult time also with the bear market and in the coming months we might even see the bottom of that, I hope. But so yeah, if we sail through that, simply being a nice community and holding on, then I'm happy. And I'm very happy with the community we have and the team we have and all the mods, and
Yeah,
just big shout out to everyone, definitely.
exactly.
And
Yeah.
with that said, I would say until next time. Bye bye.
Thanks, everyone.